and in this video we are going to talk about repository design pattern. And believe me, it's a very important design pattern, because in daily whatever the project you are doing, we are using the repository design pattern anyhow. So it's a very important. Okay, so don't miss it. Okay, and also focus on like what is the pattern I'm writing the code, and what are the packages, what are the difference between the classes, how one class are communicating with the other classes, how they are fetching the data from the repository, and how I'm returning back to also. Okay, so in this video we are going to discuss each and everything in the depth. Okay, so let's understand what is the repository design pattern. The repository design pattern is a structural pattern commonly used in the software development. So I think each and every project we are using the repository design pattern anyhow, particularly in the project that involves data storage and retrievals. Okay, so basically with the help of the repository, if you are doing work with the MongoDB, you can already use Mongo repository. If you are using the any JPA, so you can use the JPA repository, and those repository is only for the providing the abstractions of the database layer. Okay, so you don't want to worry about anything like writing a select a star from table, select a star from this table, those tables, column name. You don't want to worry about it. It's internally write a code and it will interact with the database and it will fetch the data. Okay, but as a developer, we are not writing those repository code, but we are using those repository code, and we can simplify our work. Okay, and it's very simple to use. You can just use those repository and in our interface, and you can start working on that. But I'm going to give you an overview like what is the entire pattern, how it will work. Okay, each and everything in this video. It's provided abstractions layers between the application logic, whatever the logics we have written, and the data storage, which help to manage the data access and manipulation in more organized and maintainable way. In this pattern, each entity or model in your application has its own responsibility. Okay, so this thing also I will explain while doing a code, because he is saying clearly here, for each model or entity class having a separate repository. Okay, and responsible for handling the data operations related to that entity or model. Here is the example of the implementing a repository design pattern using a Java. Okay, so let's start and do the coding for that. Okay, but before going to do the coding, let's understand what is the flow and what is it will look like. Okay, so let me shift myself here. Okay, and now if you see, this is the client. So client is nothing but, if you know a little bit a Spring Boot, or if you know a little bit like how our GSP servlet will work, ABC pattern, then definitely you can see this is the client or Postman or browsers. You can assume it. Okay, this is the client, and right now we are doing work in the core Java, so you can assume this is the main method. So main method, the class will call the controller. Okay, controller will call service. Service will call repository. Repository will internally, we don't want to worry about it, internally interact with the database. We just have to specify the method. It will interact with the database, and this database, whatever the tables, whatever the data you want, it will fetch, and it will return back to the service, and service will again return back to the controller, and controller will give entire data to the client or main method. Okay, so this is the flow it will look like while designing a repository design pattern. But repository will come here only. This is the part of the repository, like repository or database. So while designing a repository design patterns, here having a lots of the code we have to write internally. Okay, but as a developer, if you are going to write a lots of the codes, lots of the logic you have to write, but we don't want to worry about it, because we already have JPA, we already have Mongo repository, so we can just use it. Okay, so this is the basically pattern. Okay, let's go and write a code for that. Okay, so what we want first, so first we need a client, and client will call the controller, and the controller, from the controllers we want some of the model data. Model data means, for example, we have a one users. Okay, let's write a code. Okay, so let me go to the Eclipse STS, and I'm going to create one project. Okay, so let me write one project, and this should be a Java project because we are learning a core Java. So Java project, I will give a repository design pattern. Okay, so this is our project name. Let me finish it. Open this. Okay, so this is the repository design pattern you can see here. Let me open it. Inside the repository having a one by default classes which is module info, so I don't want it, so let me delete it. Okay, so for your clarity, so this is our project, basically repository design pattern. Inside this project, let me shift myself here. Okay, in this project what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some of the package. What is the package? So first package is nothing but the main. Okay, so here I will write one package name is called main. Okay, or I can write anything. Okay, so let me give the com.app is the package name. Okay, this is the class name I have given here. Okay, so let me give here package name com.app or com.main also I can write, no issue. And here I can write simply our class name which is client test. This is the name I'm going to write. Okay guys, so this is the class name I have written which is client test, and inside this I'm going to write one main methods. Okay, and inside this main method I will write a repository design pattern. Okay, if I run this class you can see the output on console. Okay, so this is our console, you can see repository design pattern. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to create one controller. So our client is ready, just we need two controllers, but while calling a controllers we need a controller class. But before the controllers we need one entity or model class. Okay, so my entity or model class I will take as a users. So I'm going to take a user class only, and I will give the package name as a entity. Okay, and this is the user class I have created. So we have a separate package for all those things because we are writing a design pattern code. And in this user class I'm going to take a variables called let me write private. Okay, and I will give the ID, so long. Okay, and I will give user ID, so I will write user ID. It should be a small, it's a variable. So this is the user ID, and private string username. Okay, private string user email, so simply email. Okay, so this is the three fields I have taken, and for these three fields I'm going to generate getter, setter and constructor that is required. So let me go to the source and let me generate a getter setter for that. Select all, generate it. I want some constructor also. I want both constructors, so I will generate both the constructor using field also I want, and constructor using without superclass constructor which is default constructor, and one more things I want which is toString. Where is toString? So this is the toString. Okay, our class is ready, and this is the module class. Let me show you guys. So basically this is the three variables I have declared as a private, right? And those, because we can't give anybody access directly, so for that we have given public method which is getter and setter, through that people will read it. For creating an object we have given constructor which is one parameterized and one non-parameterized, and also we have given one toString method so that he will check. Okay, so that he will check and he will print the data with the help of the toString. Okay, clear guys? I hope it's clear, because lots of the times we have done those things. If you don't want to write a super, you can remove it guys, don't confuse. Okay, and let me go to the client. So client is also ready, which is the main methods, and he is ready to call. But how he call it? He will not able to call because we don't have a controllers. He have to call the controller service and then repository will talk to the database. So let me design the controllers first. Okay, so I'm going to write one more package. Let me write one more package which is name called controller. So I will give like that name, class, and com dot controller. Okay, anything. So this is the package name. So let me write here, and we are doing operations on the user. So I will write here user controller. Okay, so I have given the user controller because if you are doing with the work with the product, so separate controller you have to create. If you are doing work with the some user controller, if you are doing work with the student controller, if you are doing work with the some product controller, you have to write. Okay, so depend on your project how much it's big, all those controllers you can write in this package which is com.controller. So I have written one controller called user controller. Inside the user controllers, this is the one class, right? And I want one more package. Let me write, and those package name called service. So I will create one more package which is service, and here I will give name called user service. That is the naming convention, guys. So don't follow blindly, don't give anything name. That should be good name. You have to pray for user controller, service controller, product service, like that. Okay, that is the naming conventions you have to write. So we have created one user service also, and now what you want? You want one more things which is what? You want repository. What do you want? A repository. So this is the repository package, and here we are going to create one user repository. User repository, and that's it. It's finished. But user repository is what? It's a interface. Okay, it's a interface. So let me write interface. Okay, it should not a class, interface. And user service is also a user service IMPL we can write. Okay, but this one is as of now a interface only. Okay guys, and controller will be class. Okay guys, I hope you understood as of now. Okay, but for designing I'm making complex, guys, but no worry about it, just focus on the package. So I have created one controller package having a user controller class, having a com.entity. Okay, I don't okay, it's a user service, but we are creating one more. Okay, so this is the entity which is user classes, this is the main, this is client, this is the repository, so user repository, this is the user service. Okay, so what I'm going to do is in com.service I'm going to implement user service, correct? But let me think one more times. What I want to call client to the controllers. So what we can do, we need controller object, and inside the controllers we can call the methods, right? So first we need method. So which method? So for example we need a save method, delete method, whatever. So let me write a first repository. So inside the repository, if you open it, this repository, what we want, this repository will provide me the users. Okay, so this is the interface, so I'm going to write a code for that. So what we can write here, so for example we need, this is the interface, so I just want to write the what is the methods. So first method is find by id. Okay, so first method is save method. So save method will return any users? No, so that should be void. Okay, and save methods. Save method will take one user and it will store it. Okay, so this will take one parameter called users and it will save it. We have a user already repository, so we can import it from the com.entity. Done. Next method we want, once we save, we need find. So it will return user and find by id. This is the one methods, and here the people will pass the id. So id's type is long. Okay, user id. So this method I want to find by all users. So this will send list of users. Okay, so list of users, and here we can say all users, find all. So we can write find all methods, and this method will not take anything but it will send all list of the users. Let me import list. So list is imported, user is also imported, and we have written as of now 3 method. Okay, and one more method we are going to write. The method name is modify or save. So we can say like update method. So update method, what it will do is, this method is also void, and we can write update. Okay, update method, and update method will take what, 2 parameters or maybe the 1 parameters. With that also you can update it, but let's take 2 parameters, long, user ID, and which one you have to update. Okay, so for example we have to update this users, so we want one user as well. Okay, so this is the update methods. We need one more method. So we have done save, find, update, and delete. So delete should be also a void, delete, and delete method will take one ID, which is user ID, and based on the user ID it will delete. Okay, so whatever the methods we want, we have written here. Okay, and we have to write the implementations of this repository. So what we can do, we can write one more class in the same package, which is implementing. Okay, so what we can do, we can write one more class, because this is the interface. Okay, so if it is interface, we can write one classes which is going to create an object for it. So what we can do, we can write in memory user repository, in memory user repository, and it will implement which one method, so it will also implement what, user repository. So once it will implement user repository, they have to, because this is the interface, so interface will say to this class, provide all unimplemented method implementations. Those they have to write a code, correct? But as of now we have not written any logic inside this. Okay, correct, but let me write a logic also. Okay, we are writing a repository. Okay, and in the repository our own database, because we are not going to interact with the real database. So here I'm going to create one map. Okay, so map is our in-memory database, and it will help us to store the data, retrieve the data, all those things. Okay, so how we can write, so for example I have a one map. Okay, and this map having a value called long, which is user ID. So it will store 2 types of the data, one is long and one is users. Okay, and user map, I will give name, and this is equal to new hash map. Okay, let me import. So it's imported. Now in the user hash map we can store long as a ID and user as an object. Okay, so while saving, what we can do, so while saving a object, what we can do is, here we can write a logic like user map dot put, and through the put we can give user dot user ID. Okay, and here we can pass whatever the user is given. Okay, if somebody people are saying to the return it, so find by ID. So what we can do here, so here we can write a code like whatever the user hash map we have, user map, so user map dot get, and in the get they will pass the user ID. So through the user ID we can return the user object. Okay, this is the implementation of find by ID. And find all, so find all, inside this we have a one method map users. Okay, user map we have to write. So user map dot value, so this value will give one collections object. Okay, but I don't want in the collections, I want inside the array list. Okay, so I can create one array list, and inside the array list what I will do, I will push user map dot value. So it will give all those user map having a value, those it will return directly in one array list. Okay, so find all method is also done. We want object method. So object method, what we can do is user map. Okay, user map dot output. Same method we can use user ID and user you can pass. Okay, and third method is delete. So what we can do, user map dot remove. We have a remove method, and through the user ID we can remove those objects inside the map. Clear? So this is the simple fundamental or simple map operations I have done. But if you are interacting with the database, that time maybe internally inside the remove method you have to write delete, table name, where user ID is this one, like that you have to do. But here I have taken map. Okay, so through the map we can do all those operations and all data will store inside the map. So map is nothing but database, DB right now. Okay, so right now map is what? Database for us. Okay guys, done. Okay, so in memory implementation is done. Okay, so our repository is ready, but service having some problem, because inside the service also we have to provide all those repository method implementations. So what we can do, we can put all those methods inside this service. Okay, and those service we can implement with the new classes. So we can write like user service impl implementations, and we can implement, it's an inheritance concept, our user service. So we have to provide the implementation. So add unimplemented method. So in the one click we have added all those methods. Let me open it here. What you have to do here, so here you don't want to do anything. We need one object. Through that object we can call in memory user repository. So what we can do here, so we have a database. From the database repository we want in the service. So what we can do, we can create one user repository object here. Okay, user repository. Okay, and we can write repository equal to new in memory user repository, because we can't create object for the user repository, it's a interface. So we have to create the object for that, and through that repository we can call the same methods. So repository dot save methods, and we can pass our users. Okay, we can pass our, why it's saying to remove it. The method save user type is user service IPL must super type method. Okay, so here we have to save it once and go to the service. Here also we can just save it. Okay, now we can override it at the rate. Override. Nice. Okay, so we have created repository dot save. Here what we can do, same way, in the same way remove this line of the code. Okay, and here you can call repository dot find by ID, and you can pass user ID. Okay, here also delete this line, and here you can write repository. So we are calling repository to find all methods, and here you can get it. Here also same thing. What we can call, we can call repository dot update methods, and in update method we have to pass the data. In delete also same thing. What we can do, delete also same thing, repository dot delete, and we have passed the user ID. Done, right? The same methods we have to write inside the where we have to write in the service also, controller also. So what we can do, we can copy all those methods. Okay, we can copy all those methods, and we can go to the controllers. okay, because through the controllers we can call to the service, and here we can make it as a controller. So this is the controller. So here we can create an object of the user service for call the user methods, user service method. So we can write here user service, okay, and user service equal to new user service IMPL, because we can't create object of the interface, okay. And once we created whatever the methods we have, we can put it here, okay, same thing, and remove the override. That is the main things. Remove the override because this is not interface, okay. This is the one things, and we have to call with the user service. So copy this one and put here user service, not directly repository call, user service, user service, user service, and user service. So we have called the user service methods with that one. Clear? Clear, clear, clear. So controller is also done. So controller is done, service implemented class is done, repository is done, okay, user service IMPL is also done, okay. Now we have to go to the client, which is main method, and here we have to call user controller. User controller, controller equal to new user controllers, and once object is created we can call, okay. So what we can send here, we have to controllers, through the controllers we have to save some data. So we can call the save method, and inside the save methods we have to pass some user object, okay. We have to pass here user object. So I'm going to create one user object here. So what is the user parameters here? So user parameter is, first parameter is ID, so which is integer. So 101 let me give, and the name is called, let me give prince, and what is the value? So value, no, not a value, it's email ID. So prince@gmail.com. okay, let me import the user object. So user object is also imported here, okay, and we have passed the users here, okay. It's saying like the constructor user long string, it should not be a integer. So here you can write one L. L is represent the long, okay. You can give capital L also, a small L also, no issue, okay. So one user is saved successfully, okay. Let me write and save one more users with the calling the same method, okay. So how many object you want to save, you can save it. So first object is 101, 102, 103, okay, and this is Deepak, this is Ajay. So this is Deepak, gmail.com, this is Ajay, okay, and we have called the save method. So we have save 3 users, okay. Let me, once we save the 3 users, let me try to print 3 users, okay. So print those users, okay. So how we can print it? So simply here we can call controller, okay, and controller having a method called find all. So find all will return a list of the object for us, okay. So those list of objects we can get as a users, and those users object we can print with the help of the for each method, okay. So what we can write here is, we can write here users u colon users, right, and then after one by one all object we can print simply. So I can write here s out, and inside the s out we can write user dot to string methods. That's it. So if I run this code, you can see the output clearly. You can see the output here, user repository. Let me minimize it, okay. Let me run one more time. So you can see here user object, okay. So basically we have written first repository design pattern, and then after we have put 3 users. User 1 is Prince, user 2 is Deepak, user 3 is Ajay. So this is the 3 users we have stored inside the database, and then after we have printed it, correct. So after the printing, I am trying to save some data, okay, and I want only one users, okay. find by id, find by id. Okay, so what we can do, so those method we can use, so we can write controller dot find by id. Okay, and find by id we can pass what is the id. So for example, I want Deepak, so 102, and I will pass L, and this will return me one what, one user object. Okay, simple user. So what I can do those users, so I can simply print it. Okay, so if I print this user dot toString, so you can see here what is the output. So if you see the output, like in the last, Deepak is printed again, right? Deepak is printed again because of that find by id. This is the one things. Okay, if you want to print directly, you can call this one and dot toStrings. Okay, so this is the find by id, find all, save method we have discussed. Let's talk about delete or update method also. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete one object which is 1. Okay, so let me comment this code. Okay, so this is printed the 3 object. Now I'm going to delete one object, delete method, and what I'm going to call is, I can write controller dot delete, and I want to delete a user called prince. So 101 L I will pass here, and this object will delete. Okay, once it is delete, I want to print one more time, so I can copy this code and I will print it below. Okay, and I can print here after delete. How many objects are there? Okay, and here we have to change the name also, so user1, users ones. Okay, clear? Let me run this object, this class once again, and if you see the output, it's printed. First we have save, and again we have display, so all object is display. After deleted, you can see here only 2 objects are available if you print it. Okay, so delete is also working fine. Okay, let me test the modify. Okay, so how we can test the modify? So first comment those part also, not required. No, those are the required. Okay, those are required, but I don't want to delete it. Okay, now I will write after update. So after update, so I'm going to write the update methods. Okay, and inside the methods I will write controller, okay, dot update. So in the update we have to pass the id. So id is called, I'm going to pass something called 103 Ajay. So here I will give the id 103L, and object I will give new users. I'm going to modify, and this users id is same 103L. Okay, and name I'm going to modify Ajay Kumar, and email id should be also modify. So ajay@12345@gmail.com. That's it. Okay, and after update I will print again, like it's printing correctly or not. So let me run one more times and I will show you here. Okay, so after updating, after update you can see Ajay name is changed, it's become Ajay to Ajay Kumar. Email is also same, capital Avay@gmail.com. So this is the basically a pattern which is called a what? Repository pattern. Let me explain you guys how it will working. So what I have done, first I have created the object of the user controllers. Once I have created the object of the user controller, I have saved some of the data, some of the users. How I have saved? So controller having a one method called save. I have passed our object which is users. Let me open the save method. So control and open the implementations. So once you go to the here user controllers, it's having a one method called save method. Same method we have called and we have passed the user, so user will store here. Again we are calling the user service, service having one same method, and we are passing our same user. Let me open this method which is save and open the implementation. So if you open here having a implemented method user, so our user is came here. Again we are calling the through the repository this save method. So repository is what? This is the in-memory user repository, which is user repository. So once you open this method, what will happen? It will open this one, but we have to open the implementations, user repository implementation. So if you open the implementations, you can see exact method which is saving the data inside this map. So we are taking this user, and this users, what we are doing is user map. Where the user map? This is the user map. So inside the user map, which is hash map, we are putting user.getUserID. So with the same users which is passing here, we are reading a ID and we are considering as a ID, and for the object as it is, we are storing as a object here, which is users directly. Okay, and again what it will happen? It will go return back, return back, return back. So again it will come back. Let me go. Come back to this repository to service to the controllers, and again main methods. Okay, so our three objectives saved successfully. Again what I have called the find all. We have not passed anything, but this is the controller method. So once you call this method, what will happen? It will go to the controller. We have called the service method. Service will internally call the repository method. If you open the repository implementations, we are reading this find all object from the user map. If you see here, so user map.get value will give all those objects are available inside the map. It will give. So once it will give, we can convert into the array list, and we are returning it back. So once we return back find all, so here we have seen return, and we are returning the list of the users. Okay, list of the users. So this return method will go and return to the service. Here also return service to the this controller, and controller to the whenever we required. So we have stored those all users here, and after that we have printed it. In the same way we have written for the find, update or delete. Okay guys, so I hope you understood like how we have integrated client to the controller, client to the service to the repository to the database. In the sum of the case, the interviewer will tell you, hey, you don't want to write the controllers or services, you can just write a code for the repository. So you can just take these two things, one is repository and one is client. So repository we have written directly, we can create an object like we have created in the service, same thing, and we can do it. Okay, so that is the overall idea about the repository design patterns, and I hope you guys understood. The main important part is this repository classes, which we have defined all those methods which is required, and we have implemented all those methods inside the in-memory user repository using a database called in-memory database, which is hash map, and we have implemented all those methods. Okay, if you want to save data permanently in the database, you can use MySQL, Oracle database, but as of now we have used in-memory database. Okay, thank you so much.